The question is, are you a horse or a pig?
In our world, there will be no emotions except fear, rage, triumph, and self-abasement. There will be no loyalty except loyalty to the party. But always there will be the intoxication of power. Every moment there will be the thrill of victory, the sensation of trampling on an enemy who is helpless. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever.
Today, the book that we are reviewing is Animal Farm by George Orwell, and we are going to delve into the characters, the themes, and this masterpiece that George Orwell has penned down 4 years prior to his death.
Animal Farm was the first book in which I tried, with full consciousness of what I was doing, to fuse political purpose and artistic purpose into one whole.
Some say politics has no place in art.
The opinion that art should have nothing to do with politics is itself a political attitude. What I most wanted was to turn political writing into an art.
The animals of Manor Farm near Wellington, England, have been neglected by their irresponsible and alcoholic farmer, Mr. Jones, and are ready to rebel. One night, the respected Bob, Old Major, who's the main character of this book, leads a conference where he teaches the animals a revolutionary song called Beast of England and calls for the overthrow of humans. Now, after Old Major dies, two young pigs, Snowball and Napoleon, take over and lead a successful revolt that drives Mr. Jones out and renames the property Animal Farm. The 7 commandments of animalism are adopted, with the most important being all animals are equal.
The actual details of the story didn't come to me for some time, until one day I saw a little boy, perhaps 10 years old, driving a huge cart horse along a narrow path and whipping it every time it tried to turn. It struck me that if only such animals became aware of their strength, we would have no power over them, and that men exploit animals in much the same way that the rich exploit the proletariat.
So according to Orwell, Animal Farm reflects events leading to the Russian Revolution of 1917 and then on into the Stalinist era of the Soviet Union. Now, prior to the Stalin era, you had in 1894, you had Nicholas II becoming the emperor, also known as the Tsar of the Russian Empire. Now, it was a country that was divided into a class society. So you had the upper class living in luxury, while the workers and peasants lived in hardship. And by 1905, the lower classes were tired of this inequality, and then they forced the Tsar to create some form of national assembly to sort of resolve their problems. And in 1914, the whole world was plunged into the World War I, and there was, these untold hardships, food shortages, and economic chaos. Now, that worsened the situation of the lower class, and by 1917, there were these demonstrations. Eventually, on March 12th, there was a National Assembly formed, and then you had the famous Bolshevik Revolution of October 24th and 25th. Eventually, you had a full-scale civil war in Russia, ending with the formation of the Soviet Union. Now, Lenin died on 21st January 1924, and upon his death, Stalin took over as a successor of the Soviet Union itself. So that's one of the things that sets the foundation for the Allegory.
So this gives us a wonderful background to give you the context of the book. George Orwell's genius is that he was able to adapt all of this academic history into a fable that can be consumed by the masses.
The fable does follow so completely the progress of the Russian Soviets and their 2 dictators that it can only apply to Russia. It would be less offensive if the predominant caste in the fable were not pigs. I think the choice of pigs as the ruling caste will no doubt give offense to many people, and particularly to anyone who is a bit touchy.
At the beginning of the story, Mr. Jones is depicted as a powerful figure who takes pleasure in his own comfort whilst the animals suffer. A pure reference to Nicholas II, the Tsar of the Russian Empire, who seems to enjoy the luxuries of Russia, while the worker class and the peasant class have to struggle to survive. So the animals eventually rise up and overthrow Mr. Jones. The interesting thing is that revolution happens spontaneously. One day, as Mr. Jones neglects his duty of especially feeding the animals, they just get fed up and the revolution happens. Now, the thing we must take note of is the dreamer, Old Major, the one who actually shares his dream with the animals, actually passes away
before
the actual revolution happens. So for some people, old Asia represents Karl Marx, and for some it represents John Lennon, because both of them seem to pass away before the actual establishment of a communist system. So after the revolution, you would have a short-lived victory, because immediately they realize that it's actually the replacement of one form of political power with another, because the pigs immediately take the lead, and by the end of the second chapter, they begin to sabotage the main principles of animalism, because they take the milk and they begin to take the apples for themselves. So immediately you had the all animals are equal to becoming a quasi. Some animals are more equal than others.
Circus dogs jump when the trainer cracks his whip, but the really well-trained dog is the one that turns his somersault when there is no whip.
The beautiful thing about George Orwell's Animal Farm is teaches us essential principles about human nature and also about human history. Those who use their mind rule over those who use their strength. So that's the hierarchy that's created essentially after the revolution. The pigs who can read and write rise to the top. That's Napoleon and Snowball, and you have Squealer. So Napoleon is Stalin, and then Snowball is to Leon Trotsky. Snowball has all the plan, he has all the tactics. He's thinking about building a windmill. Now, the windmill is a symbol of industrialization. So Trotsky is the one that originates the plan for the industrialization of Russia. But somewhere along the line, Napoleon, who seems to want to have his way all the time, is able to drive Snowball away from the farm. In the same way that Trotsky is driven away first from the communist leadership, I think in 1927, and eventually from Russia in 1929. Okay, then you have Napoleon taking over the farm, and gradually through Squealer, who is a perfect spin doctor, and what we call in Ghana a propaganda secretary. The role Squealer plays in the Animal Farm is to effectively spin lies into truth, all in support of Napoleon. George Orwell said that political language is designed to make lies sound truthful, murder respectable, and to give appearance of solidity to pure wit.
I believe in England. It is a living contradiction of all the infallible dogmas of fascism. We are a nation of flower lovers, the football match, the back garden, the fireside, and the nice cup of tea. The liberty of the individual is still believed in. The totalitarian idea that there is no such thing as law, there is only power, has never taken root. Such concepts as justice, liberty, and objective truth are still believed in. They may be illusions, but they are very powerful illusions.
Another character in the book that's very important is the horse, Boxer.
Now, Boxer represents the working class. They also represent, in the story, it says that Boxer is he's loyal, strong, he works very hard, but he's not of first-rate intelligence. To be able to question and demand higher standards from your leaders or from your ruler, you need to have as much intelligence or even more intelligence that you must be able to think for yourself, or even think about what they are doing that is not working to your benefit. So to be able to critique the ruling class, you should be either the same intelligence as the ruling class or even more intelligence than them, because Boxer's position where he gets swallows Squealer's propaganda. Now, sometimes we take propaganda for granted. It's very difficult or differentiate between what is propaganda and what is the truth. And that's why those who have a mastery of language are effective on pushing forward the political agenda. I mean, practically, the whole world believes that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. So ultimately, it became obvious that Iraq did not have any weapons of mass destruction. This was after the Iraq War and after several years of destruction. That's how powerful propaganda is.
This leads us into the demise of the one whose motto is that I will work harder without thinking. Eventually, this inability to critique the ruling class puts Boxer in a position that eventually causes his death. There's another fierce battle, he gets injured, and then as soon as the ruling class realize that he's no longer of use to them, they dispose him.
Yes, whether we like it or not, that's the way human history goes. So that's something about human nature. That we must understand that we should have the capacity to think You know, that was Snowball's intention right from the beginning, to train all the animals to think for themselves. But then some animals trifle this education process, and some animals could not just be educated. So sometimes these worker classes form unions, sort of help themselves. And I think that's the loophole out of this predicament, that where masses of people have challenges in approaching the ruling class, they should form unions to voice out their interests and to fight for their interests. Otherwise, their fate would be exactly that of boxer. So now that we've answered all of these questions, you should ask yourself, are you a pig or are you a horse?
The moral to be drawn from this dangerous nightmare situation is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you.